the first thing I suggest is that you spend the money on the enclosure. All right. I cannot stress this enough. Most people want to buy the subwoofers and then they go try to find a box for them. That's the wrong direction. The first thing you need to do is go to an enclosure builder, someone who builds enclosures for cars. Have them spec out the enclosure that you want, playing probably around 30 to 32 hertz tuning, and build an enclosure to fit in your car, and have them tell you. Now, listen to what I'm saying here. You have them tell you what subs to run in the car. And they build the box for the subs that they tell you that they need. If they say you need two, pretty high powered 12s, we're going to build this and this and this, you don't argue. Just listen and learn something, okay? If they say, well, your best bet is to build this box for 2.8s or for 2.10s, and you're like, but I could run bigger. No. It's all about the box, baby. It's all about the box. You build the box right to fit the airspace that you have available. The drivers that you put in there are going to sound way better and hit way harder than if you built a box that's too small for the drivers and put big, huge drivers in it. The output's going to be less than it would have been if you had run the smaller drivers. And a good box builder knows this and knows how to design the most efficient setup for the exact situation that you have. The exact car doing what you want it to do. They're going to give you exactly what you're looking for. Just listen to what they tell you and don't argue with them. Okay? Let them teach you. Now, if you want to learn yourself, then you can download some software called Box Builder Pro. And that's going to cost you a little bit of money, but you can input the drivers that you think you want to use, input the gross amount of airspace and volume that you think you have, and it can give you the plans to build a box that you think you need. And after you do this a few times and you get it meh, and then after a bunch of that, and then you finally go, wow, that one's good. You've just made your first milestone in learning to be as good as the guy that you would have went to begin with and say, hey man, build me a box to fit in this and make it perfect. He's already done all that. He's already had all the mess and all the wows and all the other stuff. He already knows what you're about to learn. Let's talk about that bass, baby. What's up, people? I have been getting, and I've always gotten, lots of questions about one very specific subject. What subs should I put in my car? I'd have to know everything about you, what music you like, and what kind of car you have, how much space you have. I would basically never leave my computer. I would be typing and typing and typing. So here, what I'm going to do instead of giving you a fish is I'm going to give you a fishing pole and teach you how to use it. Okay? So there are a few things you need to know when it comes to subwoofers. I'm going to try to cover some of that today. The first one is small subs. Don't sleep on the little subs. The little guys are strong too now, let me tell you. So your 6.5s and your 8s, and generally some 10s fall into this category depending on the situation. They can play very low, and they're very suitable for people that don't really want to break windshields. They just want good, low, deep, responsive, dynamic bass. And a little bitty sub can absolutely do that. And if you don't believe me, if you're at your computer and you've got a computer speaker set up and you've got a little subwoofer down there in the floor somewhere, that little subwoofer box has probably got a 4 or a 5-inch subwoofer in it. and it's deep enough and hard enough to where whenever the bass hits, you're worried that you're waking up your wife or the neighbors. Yeah, a little bitty sub in the right enclosure, very important here, in the right application can provide a tremendous amount of low end for your system. Okay, so don't sleep on the baby subs. They also don't use much space. So if you've got a vehicle with limited amount of space, like a pickup truck, a single cab, or even a double cab, but you actually have people that you put or things that you put in the back seat, you need all of your space. The only space you're willing to give up is that space where you cannot put human beings, like under the seat, behind the seat, inside the console, stuff like that. A little 6.5 setup, or an 8, or a couple of them could be exactly what you need to get you a bass on. Okay, so don't sleep on the baby subwoofers. They are impressive. Now we're going to go to the super large category. That's anything from 15s to 18s, 21s. Now a big large cone, or large amounts of cone area, you can achieve this with lots of little subs too. But large amounts of cone area allow you to move air at a very low frequency and also very loud. A single little 6.5 can move air at a low frequency and play very smooth and rich and deep at a low frequency, but it can't do that loud. Okay? So if you want to be super loud and super low at the same time, you just need to go ahead and step up to 15s and higher, because they're going to do the job easier than smaller drivers. Now you can say run 2 15s, or you can run 3 or 4 12s and get that same cone area. So the more drivers you use to accomplish the task, the more likely you are to introduce some low frequency distortion. Now, what does low frequency distortion sound like? Whenever you're listening to Metallica and they're hitting the kick drums and it doesn't sound defined, it sounds more like punching a pillow than hitting a drum. That's low frequency distortion. Yeah, it kind of sucks. You don't notice it much on a lot of music because the low frequencies hit once and carry on, like a low, long bass notes and stuff. You don't notice it on that. But whenever you got a drum going, you absolutely notice low frequency distortion then. Okay, and that's really where it's going to show up. Or anytime you've got bass notes that are changing up a lot. Low frequency distortion is going to make that sound like complete garbage. So, also large drivers tend to not be as good at handling those quick changes. That does not mean that they cannot do this. If you put good power and the right enclosure and the right super large woofer together, they can absolutely play those notes with a nice crispness and cleanness all the way through. However, okay, a Volkswagen Golf with the right engine and the right tires and the right driver can also do 200 plus mile an hour. That doesn't mean that they all can. So understand that there are limitations on the average drivers. So the average 18-inch woofer is not going to be able to be as linear and clean as the average 8 or 10-inch driver. Your very large subs can play very deep, very loud. They require large enclosures or infinite baffles. You can run infinite baffles. And they often require a little more power than a smaller driver might. Just depending on the situation. It's all situational. All right. Now your 10s and your 12s, they're the kind of middle ground here. And probably your best bet for just about everything. They are relatively small. They don't hog too much space. They can get loud while playing low. And there's a ton of them on the market. Because they're such the do-all subwoofer, there's a lot. The first piece of information you need whenever you're picking out a driver is you need to match your sub to your enclosure space, and to your expectations. Okay? If you, like I said, if you're someone who just wants a good solid foundation for their music, nothing crazy, you're not wanting to break in windshields, and you're not wanting to have people at the car next to you going, what the hell is wrong with that guy? I get those looks all the time. If you're that person and you've got a limited amount of space, you know, a couple of 6s or a couple of 8s might be just perfect, or a single 10, just perfect for you. Even though downfiring enclosure in the trunk, that means you basically lose no trunk space. It's protected from objects. It's perfect for good solid base foundation without any real substantial, extra volume, if you understand what I'm saying. If you're wanting an SQ setup on the cheap, okay, without making any major changes to your car, just a nice economical SQ setup, a downfiring 10 or 12 in a nice flat low profile box in your trunk or in your cargo area is a perfect solution, because you can throw your hunting rifle and your bow and your golf clubs and your dead animals and whatever in there on top of it, and you're not going to hurt it. The sub is protected underneath. You can throw your kids in there, throw the neighbors in there, the lawnmower, whatever. So that kind of setup is perfect for the everyday person. Most people out there who want bass in their car, that's exactly what they're looking for. Now, there's the other end of the spectrum. For the guy whose idea of an accomplishment is having the cops called on them multiple times during the day from a block away. That guy, that's a whole different can of worms. If you want to knock windshields out on the hood of your car, if you want to compete in SPL competitions and win in some of the higher brackets, if you want to do hair tricks and have girls' hair flying out in all directions like they just put their fingers in a light socket on a cartoon, then you want multiple 15s or multiple 18s at least. And you're also going to be doing some kind of crazy sixth order bandpass box, and you're going to have to completely rip the interior out of your vehicle and sacrifice everything about it that makes it drivable to turn it into a motorized speaker enclosure with a special compartment for people to sit and get the sound pressure. You basically take a vehicle and turn it into a novelty, because it is not a vehicle anymore. You have to wall it up, them subs right up there behind the driver and passenger, and everything from there back is full of amps, batteries, and money. Okay? A lot of money. You could easily dump $20,000, $30,000 in a vehicle, and that's just getting it into a basic setup. That's not counting all the mistake money. That's not counting the change money. That's not counting the oops, I just blew 2 drivers because I'm stupid money. That's just getting you started. You're going to need to carry multiple extra drivers with you. Probably going to replace a couple of amps every season, if not all of the sub amps every season. It's not counting the 700 or 800 pounds of copper that you're going to be buying to run the power to all that. plus the batteries, plus the alternators, plus the bracketry for the alternators, plus learning how to hook that up, plus replacing some alternators after you burn them up, plus replacing, like I said, it's an expensive hobby. If you want to go that route, you're going to need great big subs and deep pockets. Now, the middle ground, most people are going to fall into that area, and that covers the casual listener, someone who just wants a little bass, to someone who wants to, you know, to ring it out, you know, to be able to go down the road and really crank it up and shake the mirror off their windshield and, you know, just be the average hard-hitting bass car. For that kind of setup, you're going to probably run a couple of 12s, or maybe even a couple of lightweight 15s. You know, but if you've got the space, hopefully this was helpful for you guys. I've been showing pictures, so some of these builds are pretty cool. Some of them are what everybody has. Some of them are what most people will never even see, much less have. Some of them are what most people don't even need, but whatever, you know, I mean, who needs a race car? Race cars are totally impractical, but they're still fun. So if you guys enjoy the videos, be sure and hit the button right here in the middle, that subscribe button. That's my main button. That's the button that helps me keep doing this stuff and moving on with life. Anyway, guys, peace.